Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Israel Brief with me, Rolene Marks. I'm still not 100%, but I thank you all for your wonderful messages. But this has been such an important news week that it's very important that I have the opportunity to speak to you right here on the Israel Brief, where we take a look at those top stories dominating the headlines here in Israel. We do it every Monday to Thursday, and we do it with these guys, lay of the land. So guys, it is Wednesday, which means tomorrow I bring you your mensches, your wonderful people of the week, and your morons. Now, no, there's one or two of you that take issue with me saying mensches, but we're going to keep it that way here because the majority of our viewers are not Yiddish speakers. So we're going to keep it as general as possible. And our morons. And boy, the list of morons sure takes aim at somebody, and he's the subject of our top story. Also, a reminder that if you have a question that you would like answered, please be in touch with us via our social media or via our website. So let's get into it. And is it Tier Keir only with allies? So why have I said Tier Keir? Well, Keir Starmer, he is the Prime Minister of Britain. He is called Tier Keir because many of his country folk say that he has a two-tier justice system for some sectors of society and a different one for others. And it would appear that he has a two-tier system for dealing with his allies. Now, last night, the British Prime Minister, conveniently after President Donald Trump had flown back to the United States, released a statement where he issued Israel an ultimatum. He said that Israel must agree to a ceasefire and end the war by September, or he will recognize a Palestinian state. Now, he says that this is in response to the horrific humanitarian situation on the ground in the Gaza Strip. He also completely abdicated Hamas of any responsibility for their use of food as a weapon against their population. And we've had these discussions all week about how aid has gone in and where the issue is, it's not that the aid is not getting in. The aid is getting in. The issue is the distribution of aid. So the aid is getting in. I was hoping to get to the Kerem Shalom crossing today. Unfortunately, due to security reasons, our visit has hopefully been postponed to next week. Let's hope that I get there because I really want the opportunity to show you with your own eyes, is to take you there with your own eyes to see the situation on the ground. The Prime Minister also demanded that 500 trucks go in per day. Now, again, the issue is not the trucks going in. The issue is the aid agencies collecting and distributing that aid. We know from testimony from the GHF, from Gazans, from the United Nations themselves that their aid trucks are looted. So I don't know where the message is not getting through to Keir Starmer and his government. I have a suspicion it's to placate the Labour Party backbenchers and to mollify the big Muslim community in the United Kingdom. And that is kind of what our foreign minister intimated in his response. He said, that there are some leaders who are doing this in order to mollify the street because the street has become uncontrollable. It is also a major slap in the face to Israel as an ally and to the United States because it completely goes against what the two countries are working for. But let's unpack this. So Starmer said in his statement that Israel must agree to a ceasefire by September and end the war. A reminder to Prime Minister Starmer. Last week, in fact, not even last week, I think 2 days ago, you sat next to President Trump. He told you that Hamas do not want a deal. They do not want to release any hostages, they're keeping them as human shields, and that they are impossible to deal with. It is no secret that last week the special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, withdrew his negotiation team. The first time he's done that. It is no secret that Egypt and even Qatar expressed frustration with Hamas, saying at one stage that the reply they gave to them was so ludicrous that they weren't even going to show it to the Israelis. They must go back and come back with another plan. It is no secret that Israel withdrew its negotiating team because Hamas hardened their positions. Hamas now effectively have no incentive to negotiate and no incentive to release the hostages because there is a reward. Now, on the other hand, if Israel agrees to a ceasefire and Hamas refuses the ceasefire, which they're likely to do, then what, Prime Minister Starmer? But you really have demonstrated to your allies that you cannot be trusted to stand by your allies in their darkest moments. And I have to say, somebody who's a student, a lover of history, the late Prime Minister Churchill will be spinning in his grave because effectively what you have done is you have fed the crocodile by appeasing it. And you know what they say about feeding the crocodile in the hope that it won't bite you? We all know. So what was the response? As you can imagine, the response from Israel was quite harsh. Prime Minister Netanyahu saying this is rewarding the monstrous terror entity that is Hamas. President Trump said this is effectively giving Hamas a reward. He says, I am not in that camp of countries that are recognizing Palestinian statehood. And even yesterday, in his briefing to the foreign press, Foreign Minister Gideon Saar said that there were some European ambassadors who actually said signing that letter last week was hasty. They recognize that it is handing Hamas a win and not giving them incentive to negotiate. So let's hear from what hostages, the hostage families are saying. So the Hostage and Missing Families Forum condemned this. They said, recognizing a Palestinian state while 50 hostages remain trapped in Hamas tunnels amounts to rewarding terrorism. Such recognition is not a step towards peace, but rather a clear violation of international law and a dangerous moral and political failure that legitimizes horrific war crimes. The abduction of men, women, and children who are being held against their will in tunnels while subjected to starvation, amazing how nobody remembers that, and physical and psychological abuse cannot and should not serve as the foundation for establishing a state. And this was also echoed by the legal representative for British hostages, who said, you failed us. You failed British hostages, 2 of whom were murdered in captivity. And I'll read to you the statement from former hostage Emily Damari, who has dual British and Israeli citizenship. She said, as a dual British-Israeli citizen who survived 471 days in Hamas captivity, I am deeply saddened by Prime Minister Starmer's decision to recognize Palestinian statehood. This move does not confirm the UK will advance peace. It risks rewarding terror. It sends a dangerous message that violence earns legitimacy. By legitimizing a state entity, while Hamas still controls Gaza and continues its campaign of terror, the Prime Minister is not promoting a solution. He is prolonging the conflict. Recognition under these conditions emboldens extremists and undermines any hopes for genuine peace. And I'm going to try and find you the statement from the hostage families that are British. I'm trying to look for it here. I'm trying to look for it for you. It is absolutely it's absolutely preposterous. Okay, so I can't find the statement, but it is out there online for anyone who wants to read it. It is just absolutely extraordinary. And just a reminder to Prime Minister Starmer, a couple of weeks ago, Eli Sharabi, whose wife Leanne, who was a dual British and Israeli national, who was murdered on the 7th of October along with their two daughters. Eli, who was released from captivity in those grotesque and obscene release ceremonies, who was emaciated to the point he looked like a Holocaust survivor. He was starving. The hostages are starving. And you put the onus on Israel? Shame on you, Mr. Prime Minister. In other news, and completely different to the United Kingdom, in an unprecedented historical move at the conference that's taking place at the United Nations this week, that Israel and the United States are boycotting to move forward a two-state solution, the entire Arab League, for the first time, including Qatar and Turkey, issued a statement condemning Hamas, calling for them to disarm, demanding they release all the hostages and end their rule in Gaza. They released a phased plan that would see a demilitarized Palestine next to a secure Israel. And they also stated that this would result in the eventual normalization and recognition of Israel by Arab countries that haven't recognized Israel yet, and would see the establishment of foreign forces in the Gaza Strip to maintain the demilitarization. This is unprecedented. This is a statement that was welcomed by France and Saudi Arabia, and even the United States' ambassador to Israel, Ambassador Mike Huckabee, said, while France, the UK, Spain, Ireland, Norway, while they reward terrorism, the Arab League sides with Israel and calls on Hamas to disarm, basically to surrender. It's absolutely it's unbelievable what Starmer's done. Now let's take a look at the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and some of you might be familiar with a broadcast put out by, of all people, the BBC, in particular Jeremy Bowen, who practically, exploded with joy to bring the statement from a so-called whistleblower, Lieutenant Aguilar, who was a staff member, a part of the GHF, accusing Israel of massacring Palestinians who came to the food distribution site. Well, in also an unprecedented act, their legal representative issued a statement on YouTube, a visual statement with, as the kids say, receipts, where he showed the correspondence between Aguilar and members of the GHF team, where he lauded the work being done there. However, Aguilar was fired for his behavior and also for his poor performance, and had apparently begged for his job back. And when the GHF refused that, he said, well, I am going to go to the media and I'm going to accuse you and the IDF of committing war crimes. And he made good on his threat, which of course many in the media absolutely salivated over and ran with. Well, I watched that statement. It's very interesting to see all the receipts, including proof, the metadata, that he fabricated his testimony, because according to the metadata and according to the GHF, not only did he put this out after he was fired, he was actually not out of the distribution zone at any time. So how could he have borne witness? And they called on the press to please basically do your homework. Don't just push out this false narrative which harms the very people who they are intended to serve, which are the civilians in Gaza who desperately need the food aid that is handed out by the GHF. And finally, let's end on a positive note, and it's a huge mazal tov to former hostage Jimmy Pacheco. Jimmy, who is Filipino, who was working as a caregiver to 80-year-old Amitai Ben Svi, who was murdered on Kibbutz Nir Oz, and Jimmy taken hostage. Well, his wife gave birth to a beautiful baby girl who they have named Israela. Mazal tov, she is their fourth child. Jimmy was released in the first hostage release on the 24th of November in 2023. And Jimmy, it warms our heart to see your family growing and so happy. Mazal tov from all of us to you and your families. So guys, those are your top stories. Let's take a look at the audience question. It comes from Amalia from Milan. Milan, buongiorno. Who says, do I think that there will be a Palestinian state? Well, it's interesting. Unfortunately, I'm not a what do they call them, prophet or soothsayer, so I can't see the future. But I can tell you this, that Starmer and Macron and whoever can declare Palestinian states as much as they want, but they haven't given us the practicalities. First of all, this has to be negotiated. And we know how well that has worked out. And we know that the Palestinian leadership have refused several offers of a state. So, okay, you've declared a state, now what? Where is your state? What are its borders? What is its capital? Who is its prime minister or president? What are the laws? What are you going to do about denazifying the education so that we don't see the perpetuation of this education for hatred? How is this state going to work? The practicalities seem to have fallen by the wayside by many of these gung-ho politicians who are pandering to certain voter bases in their country. So it's anyone's guess, Amalia, but of course, whatever happens, we're going to bring it to you right here on the Israel Brief. So guys, that's it from me for today. Please don't forget to follow our website at www.layoftheland.online, our Facebook page at Lottel's site, our YouTube channel is right here at the Israel Brief. If you like our content, please hit that subscribe button and the notification so that you're alerted every time we post a brief. We are on Instagram at Rolene_Marks, on LinkedIn at Rolene Marks. And guys, God bless you all. I will see you tomorrow with your mentions and your morons. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.